As I was thinking about people in our lives who are healthy, happy, whatever, that have a healthy relationship with food. And I thought just that perspective, they obviously they control their food. It doesn't control them is kind of a highlight.
Yeah.
But two, I find that they love their food as well. And I even wondered about that it feels like they get more joy than the person over here who's just savagely pounding whatever, tastes good in. It's not even, we know that. I mean, the more you
Right.
do, it's like, forgive me, but sex every day, twice a day. There's not really anybody. It kind of like, no, I need a break.
Well, right. And that's why when you bring up that subject, we think, oh yeah, when we're on vacation or you're in on a trip or a honeymoon or a special weekend or whatever, that's precisely it. It sets it apart
Yeah,
as special.
yeah.
You've got a different relationship with it.
And we're at a point though where we treat every meal where,
Like
it's
sex.
like, yeah, just pound in it. And it made me think of our office mates here, Allison and Stefan Roy. And I thought I'd give them a call out. They've got a YouTube channel called Catch. It's Catch period in period dinner. Catch in dinner. And these folks live to eat.
Yeah. They live to kill what they eat, then they eat it.
They do, but you think about the process, and none of us or few of us are going to do that. But they just got back from Florida and they went pig hunting,
Yeah.
and killed a big pig, and then they put it on YouTube and show here's the hunt, and it's all exciting, and then here's us. I don't know if they show the cleaning or whatever, but then here's the meal and the recipe they made, and they sit and eat it, and they love food. And from what I've seen, I don't know that they abstain much. I think
Right.
they
Like,
eat well most of the time.
well, we've had a meal with them and it was pretty
Sacred.
good.
Yeah. And it was sacred. So to think about that, here we all want health and wellness. And I see that most people that we see that vitality from, they have a really good relationship with their food.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what I want. And yeah,
Yeah.
just as we were chatting about years ago, and you and I were talking about wine, and you said, gosh, we really enjoy it, but do we need to caution ourselves on, is it controlling us or do we control
Right.
it?
And the concept, and I love the word that you brought out with relationship, the relationship that we have with nearly anything, but
I'm glad you love that because I got that from you.
people don't walk around talking about my relationship with a hamburger.
Yeah.
My relationship with a radish. And or with now maybe a little bit more with sugar or emotional, the famous emotional eating kind of things.
Comfort food, whatever. Yeah.
Food. There's a little bit of a relational quality there, but we don't have a relationship with lunch. I mean, typically we don't. And so that's kind of what we're doing, is calling this up.
Yes. Elevate. Well, we're back to elevating our appetites.
Yeah.
Because you say that. And I think if somebody asked me, I'd say, I do have a relationship with lunch. Generally, you and I
think you and I do now. We can describe it.
I didn't though. My relationship with lunch. Well, no, I just did it because we're doing this, it's a hectic schedule. And so I wanted to eat, didn't have to, I wanted to. And I sat here and did it while I was working. There was no relationship with it. I was just stuffing my face.
Oh, wait a minute. So you ate,
yeah,
but I couldn't, so that we could record over noon.
Yeah, sorry. Generally though, our relationship is we go sit out there on the deck, so we say this a lot, check out the view, take a deep breath.
Right. See, I was anticipating, I put mine in the fridge for tomorrow's lunch.
You're skipping it?
Lunch?
Yeah.
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 I'm spending it with you.
I have spent 3 weeks in Florida imbibing with food. I'm going to have to come off
your high.
Oh my gosh, my appetite is at an all-time high. So, but if we look at this and look at, when we say the word food addiction, I think the first thing you think of is, like an eating disorder, which we all know of. I'm acutely aware. That's what my wife dealt with coming out of professional dancing or whatever. So anorexia and bulimia, we think about that. But if we look at food, that's what I'm enamored with. It is something we cannot give up. And so
don't you think people think more on the food addiction side as obesity, as
I'm concerned that we don't anymore because we've normalized it
well,
here in
okay,
America.
yes.
And so that now that's just, again, people look at it and go, well, Randy, you're lucky. Look, you eat and look at
Must
you.
be your genes.
Yeah. Or whatever. And Okay. So no, I want to come to that. But if we look at, food, I mean, food is, I just am always enamored with you talking about our friend. And you said, how did you phrase it to Steve about what his thoughts
Oh,
were on fasting or something?
right. So here's an individual, and we're saying, hey, let's explore fasting. And he needed to do that. So he got through a day, and the plan had been 2 days. And he said, I couldn't do it. And I'm like, all right, what did you feel the morning of the second day as you're looking at a full day of no eating and you're going to intend on breaking fast the next day? And his words were sheer terror,
I,
which just got me. That's like, oh, wow. Because I think annoyance, I'm perturbed. I don't think terror.
I didn't embrace that when you said that. I just thought, oh, poor Steve.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm embracing that now.
Hmm.
After our months of
Doing,
fasting, yeah, prolonged fasting, 84 hours. I get it. And I just thought back to that.
Did you feel though on Monday morning, looking at 3 more days of not eating, did you feel terror?
No, I admittedly didn't feel terror, but I just tapped into, I get it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it, that
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
a visceral, and it made me
Yes.
think back to man's basic survival, that
Yes.
again, we're in the short period of time that our ancestors, for, as long as you want to go back, spent the majority of their day. They woke up and went to find food,
Yeah.
hunt it, gather it, or it's a blizzard outside and they just know, man, we're not going to eat today. I mean, it was survival. And if that's ingrained into our absolute, DNA over time, to think of abstaining from food, that's just terrible. And again, this isn't a show about fasting, but it's about saying, man, I get it. I just saw another video by Simon Sinek on talking about kids and the damage being done by devices and social
Yeah.
media, and the damage. He's really focused on the dopamine hit, the
Yeah.
damage that it does to our brain and our psyche when we get that constant dopamine hit. And I get it from food. I mean, that may be one of my primary daily dopamine hits.
So you're right. And that just hits me right now, because over the weekend I had this thought that, because yesterday was a weird day. There was a soccer game away, so Marcy went away to the soccer game with my son, and we were having dinner alone, or with the other two little ones. But I got home a little bit earlier, in that space between, because I'm usually working all the way up until now it's time to eat.
Yeah.
Even if working is sort of making the meal.
Yeah.
But on a weekend, I can't hardly walk through the kitchen without just thinking of food, and that the addictiveness of it. And I'm mad at that.
Well,
I just,
and that's,
it's there.
and I mean, if you look, and yeah, that I'm looking forward to that, the
But we don't think about it that way. I'm not saying, oh, I'd like a dopamine hit. Let me just go grab a something.
yeah.
You're right. That our relationship is with.
But it's being aware of, even right now, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to skip lunch. You are looking forward to dinner.
Yeah, in a different way than if I had eaten. Sure,
Yeah.
I am.
And so it's that we know that we get like half, so much of the dopamine hit is just looking forward to something.
Yes.
Maybe sometimes it's arguable. In James Clear's Atomic Habits, he talks about there's really more pleasure leading up to the event than even
Christmas,
the event.
right? Like the
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I'm thinking about sex again. Think about the average, the thing you see depicted on the movie, and there's the build up and the foreplay and all this stuff. And then sometimes the event can be very quick and then it's over, but it's the build up. I mean, of that,
the anticipation,
and to think about, there's that. So there's the mental anticipation. There's the taste on your taste buds. There's the chewing, the swallowing, there's the going in. And then I think that aspect of a full belly, I was thinking about that again, just from a primal aspect. I mean, I like that feeling. Man, it's a good feeling. And I wonder if that's in our DNA to say, man, I'm safe for the moment.
I think so. I was just getting ready to go there, that not only are you safe, but you are sort of, I am man. Like like the Tom Hanks, I Have Made Fire, whatever movie that was.
Conquered, safe. Yeah.
And the fire's going to run out. You're going to have to do it again tomorrow. There's going to be another whatever. But in the moment right now, it's the deep breath.
You know, gosh, it's interesting. And this is going to sound sexist, but if we look back over the span of time, right or wrong, in gender roles,
Right.
that we're all going to feel safe. A man might feel
in control.
Yeah, I was going to say conquering, but just
okay.
Confident, and a woman might feel provided for.
Yeah.
And if we go back to the caveman days, and she has a baby that she's nursing, she can't go out and do it, and so she feels safe and provided for. And again, so we're just looking at the span of time of that, and again, just a primal aspect. It makes sense. I think that's what I'm cueing into. It makes sense that, man, this is
rather than primal, I would call it. I think you're saying it's basic,
primitive. Okay.
Core.
Okay, cool. Yeah. To want food, to want to enjoy it, to want enough, to want plenty. And okay, so can I hit on addiction?
Yeah. Because I was just in America, or in the modern world, it leads to addiction because it's there.
It's there. I mean, one of my favorite habits is grocery shopping. I really do. I mean, it's like at the end of the week, man, you got your paycheck, which is stupid for us because we don't get a weekly paycheck. But it's like, man, this is my celebration for a hard earned. I'm going to go buy exactly what I want to eat, and I'll think about it, man. This is Saturday night we're doing pizza. Sunday we're doing. I'm going to make lasagna, whatever it is. And taking, again, all these good things and joys, but when do they come over into an addiction? Because when we look at the stats that I know we're always talking about, that doesn't make any of us happy to address, that we are the statistics of ill health in America, worldwide, but especially in America, are horrific.
Right.
It's horrific.
Climbing. It's bad.
We're obese. I just got back from Florida, and God love everybody in Florida, but I am not used to seeing so many obese people. Maybe it was just a specific area I was in, but it was just
evident.
It was evident. So top addictions real quick. This is the 10 most common addictions in the US from the Addiction Center. Tobacco. And it gives the numbers. I won't go through them. It has tobacco, 40 million. Next is alcohol, 18 million. It goes down. So tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, painkillers, which is opioids. That's we all know that, the opioid epidemic, cocaine, heroin, benzodiazepine, right? So that's Valium, Xanax, blah, blah, Klonopin, stimulants like Adderall, Ritalin, inhalants, and then sedatives. And if we look at those, and this would be the studies to say, well, how are the deaths related to those? And then what are the deaths related to obesity and the chronic illnesses from those, like heart disease, like diabetes, whatever. And I would say food is far more detrimental. And yet, if we looked at this and say you had a buddy who was a cocaine addict or a kid or whatever, you wouldn't come along and go, probably be good if you could, just get a little control, just lessen it a little bit, maybe just curb your appetite a little bit, try to keep the white stuff off your nose. It looks bad to people, whatever. I know it's laughable. And yet we're over here with people who are being incapacitated by food, and we don't say anything, and we don't look at it as an addiction. So you ready? Here's the 8 common symptoms of food addiction. This is from Healthline. 1, getting cravings despite feeling full. I've had that. Eating much more than intended. Yep. Strike 2 for me. 3, eating until feeling excessively stuffed. Yep. Feeling guilty afterward, but doing it again soon. Thanksgiving is what it used to be. Now it's,
are these people living with me
every weekend? I know. 5, making up excuses. And I thought about that, making up excuses. And I'm not here to offend people, but even I feel like we've gotten that thing of, we ate 4 hours ago. And, oh man, I think I got some blood sugar stuff happening. I need to eat. I need need some M&Ms or something. I need a pick me up.
I need to get fast food because I don't have enough time.
Yeah. I won't go there. Okay. 6, repeated failures at setting rules, limiting. I mean, that's all of us. We laugh at that. 7, hiding eating from others. I do that for my kids just because I don't want them to eat my food that I've got stashed, but I don't.
We have the adult shelf in our pantry. It's a rule. And that's where my chocolate is.
Yeah, I do too. It is literally the top
It's
shelf.
top shelf.
I
Yeah.
have to stand and reach high to get it. 8, unable to quit despite physical problems. I mean, you got patients that are acutely dealing with that now.
I got me.
Well,
right?
I got me. Yeah. Okay. So there we are. And it goes on. So it qualifies that. It says the criteria for substance dependence includes many of the symptoms above. They fit in with medical definitions of addiction. If you have repeatedly tried to quit eating or cut back on your consumption of junk food but can't, it could be an indicator of food addiction.
This is one of those places where I'd say we're all on the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we just I'm so glad we're doing the show, because culturally this is not it's not a topic that's out there. And meanwhile, we just keep going to the next meal.
Well, that's what I'm kind of stuck on, because I was thinking about,
I was
thinking about survival. Okay. So critical life support. What do? If you are wrecked and can't do anything, you're going to go into the hospital. They're going to make sure that you breathe, that you have fluids, water, that you sleep, and you've got to take some nutrients, input, some food. You've got to eat, and you got to urinate and defecate. And that's pretty much covered it. You can live for months in a bed, unconscious, doing those things. So here we are saying, hey, one of those looks to be our greatest addiction, and you cannot stop it. Everything else we can stop. We'll go back up. We can stop tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, painkillers, cocaine, heroin, benzo, whatever that is, stimulants, inhalants, sedatives. I mean, those are
not critical for life.
And here's food. And even though we talk about prolonged fasting and stuff like that, you
still have to come back to eat.
You're going to die. Yeah. You have to eat. And so here we are.
It is unique. We have to drink, let's call it nutrition. So water is a part of eating, but it's about, we don't have to exercise or we die, right? We'll be less well for sure. We don't have to be in a relationship with other people. Like in solitary confinement, you're less well, but you won't die. What else is there that is like this?
Nothing.
Where our poison is
required.
Is absolutely required. Within, for most of us, let's say 5, 6, 7 days, certainly 40 days, and certainly longer than that, you're starving to death, and you have to eat. What else is like that?
And then we literally have, and I don't know how to define this, we have so much joy and social connection and celebration. And from a faith-based spiritual standpoint would say, I think it was intended for that. Going back to sex was intended not just for like the Quakers, who don't exist because they didn't believe in sex. It wasn't created just for procreation. It was created for joy. The sunset was created for joy. These mountains, I've just been 3 weeks at the ocean. And I think, man, that was created for my joy. I think food was created for joy. So now it's beyond just, eating, sleeping and defecating. It's joy. So we've got that in there too. And yet, how do we manage it? And then it's like Dave Ramsey with money. I remember as a kid going through his stuff. Money's like a brick. Build an orphanage with it or throw it through somebody's window.
Yeah.
How do we manage it? We got to have it. Got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Here's food. How do we manage it?
How do we manage it? Here's sex. Here's a sunset. Here's travel. Here's all of these things. How are we going to manage it? But the one, if we compare money and sex, then food is in your face multiple times a day.
We can't get away from it. I mean, not really, unless you go climbing a hole.
Well, it takes effort. Really, as we've been exploring with fasting, it takes tremendous effort.
Yeah.
So it's in your face all the time. And now we're back to like that brick. What is your relationship with food?
Yeah.
Because culturally we are out of control.
It's obvious. I mean, that's not our, I feel like sometimes I feel like I got to defend our stance on this, but man, we're just looking at the stats, and not just your patients. I mean, anybody, if you want to go to the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, and look at the stats on all these things. But I don't think we have to. Most people are dealing with it.
They even say, like we quoted in our whatever show that was, 80% of these are directly related to lifestyle.
Yeah.
To the way that you live. And such a big part of that is the way that you eat and spend your food.
Yeah. And most people are listening have something, they're dissatisfied in some way with their current level of health, whether that's how they feel or what they see in the mirror, weight, or,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But very few people who say, no, I'm totally good. They
Right.
have
We're all on
something.
the spectrum there. We could all be a little bit weller.
So what is that relationship with food? How do we, then that would be the takeaway. How do we get a good relationship with food? And my thought was, first, this is what I'm going for here. Step one is just to understand what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Step one,
Awareness, like we talk
awareness.
about all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Understand, just like we're saying, no, there's a battle going on, or there's there's friction.
Yeah.
Where is it coming from? So that's number one. And then to figure out ourselves, our own issues. What are Kevin's temptations? Because I am not tempted by fast food. Zero.
Right.
Totally off the table.
Right.
I'm not tempted by processed food. Yeah, mine's different. I'm tempted by, gosh, what am I? I'm tempted by alcohol for sure.
Yeah.
Which to me, and I know that they do pull. That was one of. I mean, that was number two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they set that up. But to me, it's, I don't know. I mean, it's still a food. It's different than, I don't know. It is to me. Maybe that's not fair. I mean, shooting up with cocaine or sniffing cocaine or shooting up with heroin or smoking.
Well, this is going to be the nuance, because everybody hearing this is on the spectrum of addiction.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've also, in the popular press, you've seen reports about how they say food addiction, it hits the same centers in the brain as cocaine.
Yeah.
And it is stronger, or as strong or stronger than a cocaine addiction, and nicotine is one way up there high too.
I was so surprised that that's
still number one.
Do you know anybody who smokes?
I don't know.
We're in a blue zone. I know we're up here and it's not that common, but man, even in Florida, maybe that was a blue zone for that. I didn't see a lot of smoking. I was just surprised, man. I don't know who's smoking, but apparently a lot. Smoke. No, now we've got vaping, don't we?
It's got to be a part of that. Well, it's nicotine.
Well, I guess it's just nicotine. So it's in there, and people who do chewing tobacco and stuff, I just don't see it. Anyways, I was surprised. Obviously, that's number one is what they show.
But we have said in the show before too, what's the number one addiction in the world? And I would say sugar or carb.
Yeah.
That the overabundance, the overindulgence, we just put it in and we don't need it, and it's there. And even at the next meal, we don't need it. And I love how your daughter said, well, I've proven that I don't need to eat as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, now are you going to go and eat every 2 days like you probably would be okay with? No.
That's Eliza. She produces our shows, and she's been real open about that. She's actually dealing just with disappointment in realizing her own issues with food, that the prolonged fasting brought up the reality that she does not need the food. She's not hungry.
I'm with her.
Yeah.
Like that, rather than feeling inspired by the fact that I can get by or thrive on eating every other day, it's like, well, that's a pain in my rear.
Yeah, I am more satiated with food over the past 3 weeks of my imbibing. And today, I don't remember a time.
And you couldn't even make it past lunch.
I felt ravenous. And I'm thinking, I know that there's no physiological reason, because I haven't done a whole lot of physical activity in the past 48 hours. I've eaten plenty. There's no need. And I know I am perfectly capable of not eating for many days. And yet I felt it. Right. And I'm thinking,
since we did our big fasting in January, February, March, I'm a little irritated with the fact that now at lunch, even with a normal sized lunch, I'm uncomfortably full.
Yeah.
And it's irritating.
Yeah.
And then I had the feeling of, well, darn, I ate. I'm looking less forward to dinner. I hope I'm hungry by dinner.
So that's so funny.
But I grew up eating 3 squares a day in snacks. So
and a lot of food. Being in Florida, we went out to eat a lot, and the serving sizes. I got a burrito at this place. It's kind of a Chipotle, urban taco is what it was called. And went there and did the burrito thing, and literally said, please just a little rice. Cause I saw what they put on the person in front of me. I said, little rice. Oh no, just a little beans. And they really did a little, but by the end, somehow it was like the size of my leg. I ate half of it.
When I go to Chipotle, my wife gets embarrassed because I have to yell at the person. I'll say 1 spoon of beans.
Yeah.
And they'll do that heap and honking, and I'll be like, and Marcy's just like, oh, stop. And the lady's like, what? And because it'll be just one spoon of beans, one of rice, and one of chicken, which are the biggest part of what, a little bit of vegetables. And I'm like, no, 3 or 4 of those spoons, please.
Yeah.
The flip flop of that is the world that we live in.
The world that we live in, which back to my 3 weeks in Florida, the primary, and I was doing like, really good seafood and like that. Vegetables are an additive thing. Most plates did not contain vegetables. And then you've got, Mark Hyman over here, and he's showcasing your plate should be 3/4 vegetables. And we don't even, I mean, honestly, down there, what I saw, the norm of what I received, unless I specifically asked for vegetables, the norm of the average plate at a nice restaurant, and what I saw around me was not even a fourth, often zero. And if you did, it was a little thing of coleslaw, a little salad. It's kind of like what did we do? Parsley. It's a what do they call it?
A garnish.
Garnish.
It's a
Thank you.
garnish, right?
There it is. It's a garnish. And yeah, the sizes, well, on that with, just so everybody knows. So I've lived a life in marketing and sales. It was 30 years ago at a marketing seminar. It was actually around not even book publishing, but back with just content publishing, which we didn't have computers and stuff that day. That's back when it was paper. And they talked about, hey, put your stuff in a 3-ring binder. Don't be skimpy with the pages, because thump factor matters. Boom. Thump factor. This way, you're trying to get somebody to pay $180 for this information on how to start a business. You want them to feel when they pick it up out of the mail, they got their money's worth. It makes sense. So here we are at Chipotle. How much does that rice and beans especially cost? I mean, nothing.
Right.
Nothing. So man, pile that on, make the person feel like they got some thump in that. So they're doing that because it's good marketing and sales. We take it then and go, well, this is a serving size, I guess. And we just eat it, because you got to have a clean plate. Because if you don't finish it all, somebody's going to starve in wherever.
Do you remember when we read Switch?
Yeah.
And they talked about marketing in one of the big areas, and we still see a lot of commercials for food. But if you think about, like, we can always consume, there could always be an increase in how many cars are sold, or computers, or tables.
Yeah.
There's only so much food that people can eat. Theoretically, right? Like, you can only get so full. So how is it that when you look at portion sizes at restaurants from the 70s to today, there's going to be, 30, 40% increase?
Oh yeah. Supersize me.
And the supersize, like, how? So that was one of the issues. And they did the experiments that are always so cool, that where people say, no, I don't overeat. When I'm full, I stop. And they said, oh yeah. And they did it with, do you remember what they did it with?
Popcorn?
Yeah, movie theater popcorn.
Yeah.
And they gave them the giant tub. And the people, when you had the giant tub and refillables, you ate 50% more.
Yeah.
Even though you were full, even though you were and they did it with professors, like PhD people saying, no, I know when I'm full. Like I'm not like other people. Uh-huh. And so here we are now 30, 40, 50 years into this hyper marketing. The portion sizes are there. And now somebody's in their car listening to this, and they're thinking, okay, how is this going to impact me? What is my relationship with food when it's so sneaky?
It is, but that right there, I feel like is, so what's so people hear this, what do we do? There's no
solution. There is no,
for $180. We've got the 5 steps to having a great relationship with food. I mean, there are some things that we can point out, but I think the biggest thing is it's like you dealing with a patient. Hey, Dr. James, here's 10 of us. How can you make us all healthy? And you go, I don't know. I'm going to have to know each one of you.
That's right.
We're all going to have to figure out, what is our relationship with food? What am I eating? Why? What's the emotion behind it? What are my habits behind it? What are the feelings behind it? Because I mean, we know that we have so much. I mean, if you feel guilt when you're eating, or feel guilt when you look in the mirror, if you feel shame, if you feel, maybe you hear stuff like this, and at some point you're just angry. You know what? I got my life is difficult. I think that's a big thing. We medicate with it. My life is difficult. I do it.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
It's not like I'm smoking or doing something else bad. I need a vice, or it's okay.
I'll do it on both sides. I had a hard day. I got a lot done. It was really productive. I want to celebrate. Or I had a long day. It was hard. My wife's irritated with me, whatever. I don't have the willpower, back to Ben Hardy.
Yeah.
I don't have the willpower to do it. I'm just going to go home and at least enjoy kicking my shoes off and having something good to eat. I read a comic when I was a kid, and it showed this guy. I'm going to do a bad paraphrase, but he came home, or no, he went and bought shoes 2 sizes too small. And the guy says, "Dude, why are you doing that?" He says, "Man, my life's so difficult. The only joy I get is coming home at night and kicking my shoes
My
off
shoes
and feeling the relief." Oh, it's terrible. But to go home and to celebrate, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about emotions. So what is our emotion? What are our emotions? What's our relationship with food? And how do we want that? And I'll say my pride, my ego, that, I mean, one of the most convicting things was, again, back when you and I were talking about wine, you saying, does it control you or do you control it? It pisses me off. My ego, my pride. I don't want anything to control me. I don't want the policeman's radar to control me and the speed limit. And I don't want my food to control me. No, I want to be in control. I want to enjoy it and have pleasure in it.
Yeah.
I don't want to deprive myself, but man, I don't want control. I don't want it to have control. That's shame. I feel ashamed of that.
I don't know. I'm conflicted. I don't know. I think we're all on the spectrum of all of these feelings. Like, I have known that feeling. I will be in control of this. And if I'm not, there is some shame and about, I didn't need that third dessert, whatever it is. I am full. Like when you mentioned the addiction things, I'm frustrated at the fact that I can't eat when I am full. Does that mean I've lost control? Do I just want another one over there? So I felt that. And
It's
fasting has been the thing that's been the window into my relationship with food, the most powerful uncovering of that. And we've talked before about why don't we have the 5 steps to your relationship with food, and the fact that I would say this so differently to each individual person, including myself. And I'm at a place now, and I think it's partly because we're raising teenagers and questioning the gray and the black and the white of what is my relationship with food. And on one hand, I get down on it, like, because of whatever reasons, but on the other hand, I don't crave fast food either. That's not a thing I'm going to have to break or whatever. And somebody else out there is thinking that, and we're all on the spectrum, and we can all be a little bit better. So this is even today has been helpful for me to be, okay, what is my awareness of my relationship?
That's the thing. Because I'm looking at, if we look back at those addictions, tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, painkillers, when we think about what's the addiction with those,
I mean, we're great.
I'm sorry, I mean, relationship with those. And that's like having a relationship with the mafia, with gangsters or something like that. We put that down. And yet we would say we wouldn't say, the stats would show that, man, those are harming people far less than this other thing that we have a relationship with, but the relationship isn't by proxy bad. It's up to us.
Part of that relationship is very, very good.
Yeah. Well, maybe the best comparison then is money.
Okay. Yeah.
Nobody says, I do not want any money. And to that degree, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the analogy. Because can we do without money? I mean, not really. Well,
right. Now you get it from somebody else. If somebody else feeds you, you're using their money.
Yeah.
So you cannot do without money.
If you went
or exchange in value of some way.
Pretty much. I mean, even back with, I read Little House on the Prairie recently with, some of the kids, and they're pretty self-sufficient, but every month Pa would go into town because there were still things that they didn't have sugar. They weren't growing sugar cane, nails. Exactly. Nails, cloth, because to have a loom cotton, and do that was different. So they had these things that they couldn't. So money, bartering, whatever your resources or something, we have to deal with. And we know that relationship, you have a good or bad, maybe that's the best comparison. You have a relationship with money. Is it good or bad? Are you scarcity or abundance mindset? Are you generous? Are you a hoarder?
This jives in with our friend Patrick. And I don't know if you and he had those conversations, but he and I have had this conversation. He's a financial planner guy. And the dovetail of the way he talks about financial wealth, and he calls it wealth, WELLTH, like wealth management, down that pathway, because your finances is a part of your physical well-being too.
Right.
And so your relationship, and that's his main question is, well, is money really part of your joy and satisfaction and all of that? And if so, well, then that's probably a problem. And you'll never have enough. And there's always So I agree with your analogy there, and your relationship with, how do you budget? How do you spend?
Well, I thought you were going to say stewardship,
I
which
body stewardship, money stewardship. Yes.
money. So here we're talking about
Yeah.
health stewardship,
Health stewardship
but even our stewardship
of our
of food,
yeah.
which comes to some, to some of those, the how to's. I do recommend. I talk about it constantly. Ben Hardy, his book Willpower Doesn't Work, because part of my stewardship is not buying the more harmful
Hard.
foods that are to be at home at the end of the day when I'm celebrating, lamenting, whatever, and I'm ready to medicate. And you know what? I'm not going to eat a bag of Cheetos tonight. And the only saving grace is because my stewardship earlier in the day kept me from buying them.
Yeah.
So the only thing I have left is some dark chocolate chips, and I found a rice cake. It's better,
right,
than a more harmful, substance or whatever. But we're talking about, stewardship, which we don't use the word stewardship much outside of church.
Right. Think. It's a churchy word. And if you Google stewardship of the body, you find nothing. I've done that multiple times. Maybe something's new out there.
I was about to say it's to be a book title, but who wants to buy
I know
that
it
book?
feels
stewards. Yeah.
It doesn't inspire me. It's just, it feels like accounting.
It is. Well, and for candor, I was going to lead this show with a title of our addictions to food, but it's a negative. And who wants to, that's not exciting. I do want a healthy, do I want a healthy, who does not want a healthy relationship with food?
That's right.
Well, everybody. So again, if we look at that at money, would we like a healthy relationship with money? Be at peace with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Dave Ramsey, financial peace. That's what he started with. And then now, would we want a healthy relationship with food? What does that look like? And I think our start is just understanding what is your current relationship with food. I think we could do justice to having not 5, keys to success, but some ways to filter that. I can't say that I've thought about how would I define my own relationship with food, and my first thoughts are there's some places where I feel very good about my stewardship, about my relationship, and where do I struggle? Yeah, that would be a start, I think.
I do think that would be a start. And that's where we also lose many Americans, because we can't sit by ourselves in a room without a phone for 15 minutes.
It says Blaise Pascal back in the 1700s or whatever it was.
So I would challenge me to sit by myself for 5 minutes and just contemplate and spiritually dig around in there. What is my relationship with food? And I would challenge me and people out there, do that while you're fasting. Do that also while you're satiated after you've eaten. Okay, now what's my relationship?
That's good, actually. Yeah.
This is a good family table talk. Yeah. Is, why do we eat?
Because it's going to come, to that fuel. Why do we eat? Oh, well, it's fuel. So yesterday, I thought I wrote notes on this down.
Eat to live or live to eat.
Yesterday, I got a picture I could show you, though most people are listening to audio. So I'm in the airport at Sarasota, Chicago, somewhere. And I'm getting ready to board the plane, and there's a little kiosk display thing. And it was Doritos, I think, some chips. And it said, fuel up before you board. Fuel up. But again, I get it. So I'm going to get in this tin can in the sky. I am a prisoner up there.
Gosh, I don't want to be hungry.
I know. And I'm flying Southwest. So man, it's pretty skimpy up there. They were on a limited thing. You got an option of 4 liquids, Cokes, or, 3 varieties of sodas and water. That was it. 4 on this flight. And then whatever was in the bags that I said I didn't want, but some kind of chips or something like that. So I better fuel up, because everybody boarding is probably going to be in dire straits if they go for 1 to 4 hours, which is going to be the average flight time. Probably the average is 2 if they go that long without food.
While they're sitting down, not moving.
Yeah. And probably haven't been doing much all day, because like me, you drove to the airport, you
probably ate on the way to the airport.
Right. I did. I had that burrito as big as my head before that. Ultimately that I ate half, then 2 hours later, I ate the rest, because you can't not eat it, and yeah, but fuel up with this absolute,
as if you need fuel, right? As if it is fuel.
Exactly. So there's Michael Pollan on food rules. It's not even qualified food. And
I still love the Snickers commercial.
What was it? Yeah. What was it?
You're not you when you're hungry.
You're not you
And,
when
so
you're hungry.
Kevin turns into a raging monster or a whining
Hangry.
baby. You're hangry.
Yeah.
And Snickers prevents that.
But I want to come in again. We're talking about the relationship, and just because Randy James has the awareness, advocacy, and the ability to fast, you can still do that with an unhealthy relationship. You can use that as an eating disorder.
Well, that's anorexia.
Yeah, but so you can do that, and it's your addiction to trying to control still an unhealthy relationship.
That's right.
Because I feel like I can still, if my ultimate choice is I want to eat what I want to eat, which is not, bad foods, but I want to eat lots of it. And I'm going to have dairy and fat and stuff with it, whatever. And so I would rather just go exercise for a couple hours a day. That was the classic athletic training, is you do that. And then you don't feel guilt for it because, man, you burned 5,000 calories. So we can eat what we want to.
Right.
That's still my propensity. And it's not a healthy one. I'm still justifying a reason to steward, it's a unhealthy stewardship.
Right.
To earn.
Right. You earned your Frappuccino.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
I think it was heavy especially in the 80s and 90s, and carb loading and all of that. Mm-hmm. And well, you got to eat, your grandma said. I struggle with my relationship with fasting because I'm mad at it.
Yeah.
And same with food. I get mad at food sometimes too, because I'm too full too fast. I want to enjoy this longer. Mm-hmm. And so here we are at 50. We still haven't even figured out how to eat, and which is good, because we're all on the spectrum of everything, and everybody can eat a little bit better.
Well, and we're doing this. If you put yourself on the spectrum of a good relationship with food and eating well for your health, wouldn't you say that right now you're at the best you've ever been?
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah.
And yet I'm not.
Yeah. But I've also never had a relationship with fasting.
Well,
and, I've never had some of these other things that, like Eliza said, like she at 20, whatever, is more likely to have a chance of being a better relationship with food over more decades of her life, which would translate into a wellness theoretically. This is new for me.
I think that the point of this show, the value of this show for all of us, and for me is the awareness of I am dealing with, I was going to say something dangerous. It's not. I am dealing with something that can be dangerous, just like money. Everybody gets that with money. Yeah. Watch out.
Money, the brick.
Yeah, the brick.
A knife. A knife is the best tool to cut a steak, but it can kill you. And
I think that we are ignorant to the power of food and the ability for it to take control of us.
Very well said. The dangerous side of food is just not in our cultural awareness.
Yeah.
It really isn't. Even though we all know, yes, okay, obesity, but rather than doing something about it, it's normalized.
Yeah.
Like smoking didn't. Despite your example there, it is a good example of something that, like you said, we don't know anybody that smokes, but if you went back to the 70s, everybody knew somebody. Mm-hmm. And so now there's a lot less of that, but I don't see that happening with food. The awareness of food addiction, the awareness of I'm satiated too often.
I was thinking about our kids. We've got boys who we're now saying, okay, well, and I've already gone through a handful of kids. We're going, okay, you're about to be entrusted with a 1/2-ton vehicle. Do you know the damage it's going to do? Oh, so the vehicle's bad? No, it's a car. It's great.
Love transportation.
Yeah, it's awesome. It beats the heck out of a horse for me, at least. And it's great, but it's got some potential. Absolutely. And when I turned 16, I did not have a healthy relationship with my transportation, and I got into lots of trouble and caused lots of damage because of not managing that responsibility. So there's another word, responsibility. Food responsibility.
That title will not sell.
I don't like it. I just want to go enjoy my stinking food. But then we're into my arena, like the motive podcast of what's the motive? What is my goal? What do I want? And that is maybe that's the only saving grace of the only ability to have a good relationship. The only reason to have a relationship with it, to be responsible, to steward it well, is because I'm over here saying, man, I just want to feel well. And for those who say, I want to look well, That's going to be more or less important to somebody. I don't think anybody ever says I want to look bad, but different values there. But does anybody not want to feel well? I mean,
Right.
that's at the end of it. I just came from Florida, and the amount of lingering
Yeah.
disabled elderly
Yeah.
people. And I spent a lot of time with my parents who are both in their early 70s. My dad's just about to turn 74. They were with a lot of people their ages, and it was pretty, and it's not that they're in perfect health, but compared to their peers looked 10 years older, and
Wow.
then we're less able. And my dad's writing books, my mom's doing art, and they're, traveling around and doing their things. I think, man, I don't want to linger. I don't want
They're the
disability.
unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to, and I'm thinking about now, I'm 50. I think I don't really have any limitations. I was thinking about it since I was there, seeing a lot of limitations.
Yeah.
I don't have any. My knees don't hurt. I can jump, bounce, roll, whatever. At what point do I want to say, I do feel a little bit of a twinge. I'm going to take it easy. Yeah, it's probably, I've skied a lot in my life. It's probably time to hang it up. I don't want to.
I don't want to, I've never had that thought.
But you're supposed to by proxy at some point expect
Right. At 53 to be.
and accept the limitation.
Yeah.
And here's what gets me. It is going to happen. It's like you saying, we are going to die.
Yeah.
We're not going to sit here and espouse this stuff and do this and then be here at 150 years old. So the guys look, we're still rolling along, man.
For $180, you can buy
$180. You can find out how to live to be 150 and not have aged. I mean, we are going to age. And at some point I am not going to be able to do 10 pull-ups. Well, unless something tragic happens, or what you said, I'd love to be doing those 10 pull-ups. And at the end of the 10th, that's when boom.
At 93, that was it.
Kevin's 93 and he hit that last one and went down. And my kids would say, that's how he wanted to go.
That's right. On his 10th one.
That is 10th one. Okay. Relationship, responsibility, stewardship. But maybe that's a great place to end it all rides on what do we care about? What do we care about? And we dramatically care about the dopamine hit that we're going to get today, eating food. And that's the immediate appetite.
Right. How about the long term? What do you care about in the big picture? What are the main things?